Good afternoon. We'll call the Ordinance Committee meeting to order. May we have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Gutierrez?
Here.
Councilmember Rouse? Here. Madam Chair Sneddon?
Here.
Thank you.
And before we consider our ordinance for outdoor dining license annual fee, we have one slip for public comment for an item not on the agenda. Ms. Gott.
Phone call saying that there was illegal construction at an address, you had photos that were received, and you knew what the property looked at before the illegal construction began, would you take action on it? Would you take action if the person reporting the illegal construction said that the contractor, if that is who he was, fell off the roof onto Milpas a few days earlier? Would you take action if the reporting party said that the gentleman had power tools with him and he was drunk and he was just exiting a building where he was performing illegal construction, electrical construction? It kind of seems to me that you would take action. Instead, despite photos, despite emails, even to our city administrator, as of last night, no action had been taken. I have a question about our ordinances. Are they meaningless? Because it actually feels like they are meaningless. If we don't have a building and safety department, and safety is a primary concern, especially when you're thinking about fire hazards, people falling off the roofs of buildings onto Milpas Street, and you're reporting again that someone was drunk leaving a construction work site. What do we have? We don't have a safety department in the building and safety department. So I have a question for you. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to have a conference with your city administrator? Are you going to direct your building and safety and your enforcement department to actually follow the rules and take action when something like this is reported? Now, maybe this isn't rise to the level of a hedge, and you can wait 4 days for a hedge, but can you really wait? It ends up being 5 days plus for work like that to be done. You don't know what could happen now or in the future because of shoddy work performed possibly by someone that was drunk. I want to just leave you with that. Thank you.
Thank you. And now that's the last comment not on the agenda, so we will first invite our staff report.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, council members. I'm Adam Hendel, Principal Engineer in the Public Works Engineering Division, and I'm here today to talk to you about the Outdoor Dining License Program, specifically our license, our annual fee for that program. So the purpose of this ordinance is to revise the municipal code to allow for an annual license fee to be determined as part of the fee resolution and budget process. Our current municipal code is very specific, and this revision would give this option to future councils as part of the fee resolution and budget process. The current municipal code requires some form of fair market rent as compensation to the public for use of the sidewalk, and so that's what we're here today to talk about. So a little bit of background on the outdoor dining program. The program allows restaurants the opportunity to use a portion of the city's sidewalk for an outdoor dining purpose. Staff believe this assists in maintaining a vibrant pedestrian experience in commercial areas, State Street, as well as other streets, side streets off of State Street that are appropriate for outdoor dining. The section in the municipal code dates back to 1993, and currently we have approximately 41 license holders active in the program, and that number fluctuates, let's say plus or minus 10%, but we don't see a big fluctuation in that program as numbers change. So this slide just shows an example photo. This is the 700 block of State Street. I thought this was important to show you some of the different types of outdoor dining we have. We have a restaurant on the right, and on the left we have a smaller cafe, and we have both open seating, and we have areas that have what we call the barricades that are required for those that serve liquor licenses. And you can see this photo, I believe, was taken on a sunny day. You can see we have both pedestrian activity, a bicycle, and good use of the sidewalk space. So our current annual fees, what we refer to as rent, is based upon the number of items that are in the public right-of-way. Chairs, which are $299 each per year. And then we also charge for other furniture in the public right-of-way. Instead of charging a square foot cost for the use of the right-of-way, we determined it made more sense to charge by the number of items in the public right-of-way. And so some of those other items are landscaping pots, street furniture, and outdoor heaters, is sometimes popular. And then the fee ranges per license holder. Our smallest license holder is $600 per year, and our biggest is about $7,000 a year. And again, that's based on primarily on the number of chairs. So the revised ordinance language, which I'll show you in a second, allows for an annual license fee in a to-be-determined amount and form as well, rather than tying us to that fair market rent. And as part of the cost of services study that we went through recently, and in terms of staff cost recovery, for this coming fiscal year, for the annual renewal fee, we're recommending $250 a year. And that's just to keep the license holder current and to recover some staff costs. So as Public Works presented with our budget presentation to the City Council a couple of weeks ago, this ordinance change and fee change for fiscal year 2020 and 2021 would result in about a loss of $76,000 in estimated revenues. So a little bit more information on the program, some additional information. State Street and the other streets have different requirements for the pedestrian path of travel that has to be maintained. On State Street, it's an 8-foot travel way required from Cabrillo Boulevard all the way to Victoria Street, where the red bricks end. And then other side streets and other commercial areas is 6 feet. And we often find that those side streets can be a little bit more challenging in getting chairs in, and the pedestrian activity isn't as much as it is on State Street. So that's been a requirement for some time. The licenses are executed with the restaurant or the business owner and not the property owner, because it's a license, it's temporary in nature, and it's not a permanent improvement to the public right-of-way. And an example of temporary is if we have a special event or some other requirement in the public right-of-way and we need them to vacate to make use of the right-of-way, then we provide them notice and then they clear the furniture from the right-of-way, so it's temporary. With this change, we do anticipate some additional participation without the rent. It's unknown exactly how much, based upon the number of storefronts that are already there and the space in the public right-of-way, but we do believe that this could be a barrier to more entry into this program, and we think this program is very good for State Street and revitalizing State Street. Okay, so the recommendation to the Ordinance Committee would be to forward the following municipal code amendment. To delete the requirement for some form of fair market rent as compensation to the public and replace that with payment of an annual license fee. And so with that, I'm here to take any questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Rouse?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Handel, so can you encapsulate the reason why we're looking at this today? What is the motivation for this ordinance change?
Councilmember Rouse, Madam Chair, we heard from the council a few weeks ago during our Public Works budget presentation when we presented this as an option. I think we heard from the council that this was something that they were interested in as part of revitalizing State Street, and then we believe that the budget impact can be accommodated right now. So it's a short-term measure that we think is appropriate, and if the economy changes, we could make a decision in the future to charge a different annual license fee.
So in short, you basically the justification would be to add or enhance the ability to revitalize State Street. More
That's correct.
activity. Okay, thank you.
I have a couple questions also.
Okay.
Thank you. So I think you already touched on it, that the sidewalk would still be ADA compliant. You'd still have plenty of room for compliance.
Madam Chair, this ordinance revision, we're not making any other changes to the ordinance, and it does require compliance with the ADA.
And then within the permitted area, is that also ADA compliant? Is that part of the permit requirement?
Yeah, Madam Chair, as part of a new application for a license, it gets reviewed by both Public Works staff and Building and Safety staff for compliance with the ADA. One comment that was pointed out in a letter that I believe you received is that one space per 20 has to be accommodated as an accessible space. And so when we get new applications, that's something that staff review. And then in terms of the ongoing ensuring that that is in place, that's an obligation of the business owner, the license holder, to ensure they're providing that accommodation to their patrons.
Thank you. And then one more, it was also in a letter that we received about smoking on outdoor patio areas on the sidewalk. And can you let me know what those laws are?
Madam Chair, I haven't reviewed the letter you're referring to. I do know about that part of it. Go ahead.
Madam Mayor, Ordinance Committee members, I'm Rebecca Bjork, Public Works Director. The smoking law prohibits smoking on State Street with the exception of bar patios after 10 p.m. But I think, and it's been a while, I think it's at all times on State Street. Is that correct? Yeah.
So this would not, it does not affect that?
No,
Okay.
it does not affect smoking. It would not permit smoking where smoking is currently not permitted.
Okay. Those are my questions. Do we have any other questions before we hear public comment? Councilmember Rouse?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Handel, and from an engineering standpoint, I was just taking a walk up and down State Street. You notice that some businesses are adjacent to features like planters or benches or whatever, so the available sidewalk would be narrower. Is there a minimum measurement by which, so for example, if you were to grant or not or deny an application for outdoor dining, what are the parameters for that?
Councilmember Rouse, the 8-foot requirement would apply on State Street. So in a location where there's a large planter box or a traffic signal cabinet, something like that, it's still an 8-foot clear space requirement. And so that maintains that pedestrian access. So it's both from the curb face to the barriers, or it would be any other obstruction in the public right-of-way, such as a planter box.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'd like to invite public comment. Carrie Kelly, the first speaker, and then Anna Marie Gott with donated minutes also. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and committee members. I want to speak in favor of the staff's recommendation today. I appreciate the city's proactive approach to creating opportunities for business owners in the downtown area, especially. Revitalization is a term that's often tossed around, and what we really are talking about is creating, expanding, and promoting business opportunities, and this recommendation really does that. This recommendation was also one from the Vitality Working Group, and it was also a priority that was discussed at the Innovation Workshop, where we had over 200 people, and that was one of the main priorities that came out of that workshop itself, was eating in the downtown area, especially in storefronts. What this creates is a way to help businesses draw customers in. It also creates places out of spaces. Instead of just sort of walking up and down, it creates a place that people want to be and want to attend. If you're driving down State Street and you see a large number of people sitting outside of a business eating, it just gets the excitement going. And I know the places that have it right now, it really works well. And to expand and help business owners be able to do that at a lower cost is, I think, really crucial to helping revitalize or growing business in the downtown area. I think, sorry, my notes are all over the place. I really think this is a great way to help to start the revitalization, and DSB, downtown Santa Barbara, completely supports the staff's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will have Ms. Scott with donated time for a total of 5 minutes.
I'd like to point out that we actually have an exemption for bars. So that includes bars and wine bars that are allowed to be smoking in a patio on State Street at any time. If you want to refer to the actual item, it's 2.20.030, item A. And then it would be number 5. It says, under the exemptions, outdoor patio areas and outdoor dining areas of bars. And a wine bar is a bar because it doesn't serve food. And the only place that actually does serve food is someone like McConnell's Ice Cream, someone like Pete's Coffee, or an actual restaurant. When we're talking about this item, I want you to hear revitalization of State Street. You already have a current number of people that are already paying the fee. If you want to encourage more people to actually utilize patio dining, give them maybe free rent for the first year. You can still then collect the $76,000. You can use that for another item, which might be just as important to keep. But more importantly, I've got really just some basic questions from my letter that I sent yesterday, which has to do with the Rollins Jack versus the city of Santa Barbara. I'm sure the city actually fought for the highest value for your public right-of-way in that recent case. And I can't imagine that now we're going to value the public right-of-way at $0 for everyone who's already currently paying. The next thing, one of your city officials has a bar/restaurant over by Paseo Nuevo, 801 State Street. I provided you with documentation on that, as well as the contract agreement with the city. On page 5, it said that the largest restaurant that actually utilizes the outdoor dining patio ordinance was contributing $7,000. So your data must be wrong, because that contract says that there's at least 48 chairs. And I know there's got to be at least that. That's a very large space, and it's in the public right of way, because it used to be the first part of the first block of East De La Guerra before Paseo Nuevo was built. The next thing, so you shouldn't be making any changes because, your data's wrong. The next thing is, we've removed all the benches from State Street, or almost all of them. We used to have somewhere close to like 80 to 100 of them up and down State Street. I counted about 24 yesterday. There's no place really for a lot of people to sit on Lower State Street. And that is part of the pedestrian master plan, as is an 8-foot width. So do you remember recently walking maybe by Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf? You can get 2 people walking side by side down the street. Satellite Bar, which is which is basically the front of Impact Hub. The bench was removed during construction because we needed to have people walk up State Street and around the construction. The bar was installed, they got a patio, that bench will never come back. We're not taking into consideration all of the new bike posts either, because if you look at Eureka, you have the bike posts right in front of the outside patio dining, and you can get 2 people again walking side by side. That's less than 6 feet. It's probably somewhere around 4.5, maybe. The outdoor dining ordinance was passed well before the pedestrian master plan. We are not even remotely following it. We should not also be giving away our rents before the actual State Street consultant's report comes back. We have no idea what they're going to say. Santa Barbara needs a more friendly, family-friendly State Street. And maybe one of the issues is we don't have enough benches, we don't have enough family-friendly activities, and maybe we have too much smoking and maybe too many bars. And by the way, your grant that you received about a year ago is about smoking. It was a tobacco grant for over $800,000. And if you do allow this to go through, and you will be permitting more patio, outdoor space that allows smoking, because you know the wine bars are going to take advantage of it, that is going to be a problem with your grade from the American Lung Association. So I don't really think that it was really considered. I urge you not to do a thing to this, to pass this forward. This should not be done. It is a giveaway to businesses that are already paying the fee. If you want to attract new businesses and you want them to open up patios and they can comply with the pedestrian master plan, go ahead and let them have their first year free. But everyone needs to pay their fair share. And our public right-of-way is valuable. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Oh, I forgot one photo.
We're already over time, Ms. Scott. We're over time. We have the photo up here that we each have a copy. Thank you. And our last speaker will be Steve House.
Good afternoon. When I received an email advising me that this was being considered, I thought, why in the world would they consider doing that? I agree with a number of the points that have been made. This is a fee that many successful restaurants have been paying, and it obviously makes business sense for them to do that. And so I don't understand why you would take that away from them and give them free rent. And I agree with the idea that it would be fine to offer it as an incentive for a year to a new business, but I don't really see a lot of new restaurants opening up or a lot of the smaller restaurants investing in permitting and stanchions and outdoor furniture and stuff like that. So I just don't think it makes a lot of sense. I would also like to share some comments from Bob Cunningham, who couldn't make it to the meeting today. But he said he is firmly opposed to allowing businesses to operate on the sidewalks without compensation. They already consistently fail to follow the city's regulations with regard to repair of the sidewalks when vacating. They're supposed to replace any damaged bricks from stanchion removal, but the sidewalks are pockmarked with broken bricks and holes where bolts have been removed. So I just really think it's ill-advised, and it's not going to provide that much benefit. Thank you.
Thank you. It is now to the committee. Do we have further questions or discussion points? I have some questions if we're, so I'll start with trying to reconcile this with, is this consistent with the pedestrian master plan?
Madam Chair, I believe it is because we're continuing to maintain the pedestrian corridor that's required in the pedestrian master plan, and I believe the pedestrian master plan talks about the ways in which we can revitalize corridors, and I think that this change to the ordinance could add more license holders to this program, which, as long as the corridors are maintained of the 8-foot travel way, I believe it follows the intent of the pedestrian master plan.
Okay. And then again, this question of smoking with the information of bars, is it a different?
Madam Chair, one clarification about the program is that we do require that the license holders serve food, so they can't just serve wine. They have to have a menu and serve food, so I don't believe they qualify as a bar. I'd need to look into the smoking ordinance more to refresh my memory a little bit more on the smoking ordinance.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Henschke?
Mr. Henschke, do you have?
Honorable Chair, members of the committee, bona fide restaurants are subject to the after 10 p.m. restriction. Mr. Handel is correct that if you're serving food as a bona fide eating establishment, which is part of the requirement, then you'll be subject to the rules that he described earlier. So this doesn't change any of the smoking regulations that are applicable to all of the existing outdoor dining areas. It doesn't really have any impact on any of those issues.
So it does need to be a dining area, so not a wine tasting room or...
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
That satisfies that. And then for the benches, I really would like to see all the benches back on State Street. I know we have discussions about that, and I'm not going to get far afield, Councilmember Rouse, but if the benches were in place, it seems my recollection that they're often closer to the curb and where there are other boxes, utility boxes maybe in the way anyway. Are there circumstances where benches would just have to be moved to a different location, or I know this is maybe not what you work with in this particular ordinance, but...
Madam Chair, I'm not aware of the majority of our license applications where we're moving public infrastructure to accommodate a license holder. If we were to move something, say one of the bicycle hitching posts, I would say that we would relocate it. So we would continue to accommodate that other public use, locking up a bicycle, by relocating the hitching post several feet away so that then we could maintain the 8-foot requirement. It does happen where we actually construct public improvements to accommodate outdoor dining, such as what transpired with the Hotel California, where we're doing a big project and we accommodate these areas. But for the most part, we're working around existing infrastructure, and if something has to get moved, it gets relocated. It doesn't get taken away.
Okay. Thank you. And then that answers my question, too, about bike posts and other issues. So, Councilmember Gutierrez?
Thank you, Madam Chair. When it comes to the speaker's comments about replacing the bricks that have been damaged, how is that enforced?
Committee Member Gutierrez, the enforcement for this program, the license holders, they're tenants, restaurant owners. We often do see when they close, they leave, and sometimes in a hurry without us knowing about it. Ultimately, the enforcement for somebody that doesn't adequately restore the public right-of-way would be the property owner. However, oftentimes a new tenant may be coming in soon thereafter, and so staff make the decision to do a temporary repair there until time a new license holder comes in to install new barricades and fix the bricks. But we do work with the license holders to try to get them to restore the right-of-way. And that also goes a little bit to the fees that we have, the user fees that we have for this program, which is that we're continuing to charge a fee, a staff recovery fee, for those types of issues where somebody vacates the public right-of-way and they haven't done their obligation. Then we have staff available to follow up and make sure that those things happen.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rouse?
Thank you. Mr. Henschke, going back to so a business has a leased or now a permitted area for outdoor dining in front of it. Does that leased area, the part that's rented from the city, become part of the premise of the tenant, or is it still part of the public's domain? And this might be just a little arcane, but I'm thinking about the smoking regulation and what is not. I know that in a licensed premise that is self-contained with non-leased property, you can have up to 25% if it's adequately noticed and separated after 10 o'clock for smoking if you so choose. But that's it.
Yeah.
And then to me, the sidewalk must still be a part of the State Street ordinance, I would think.
Honorable Chair, Councilmember Rouse, yes, it is still part. It is still part of the right of way. It's still city property. It's a licensed premises. For the purposes of the smoking ordinance, it is smoking is prohibited in public places, and then there's an exception for the outdoor dining areas pursuant to an appropriate license, and then you're subject to the 10 p.m. rule that would apply for other restaurants and outdoor areas. And so I know it kind of takes you down this little rabbit trail and you got to follow it through, but basically the way that I read the ordinance is if you have a licensed area on the sidewalk, you're subject to the 10 p.m. rule for outdoor restaurants. And as Mr. Handel indicated, we don't allow bars on the sidewalk.
Right. So, for example, if I'm a place like Holdren's, for example, that has some tables outside, and I
Yes.
wanted to have 25% of my 6 tables, whatever they have out there, then after 10 p.m., by your interpretation, I could have a person out there smoking a cigarette.
Yes.
Okay. One of my questions, why that came up, is that there are a couple of outdoor right-of-way premises that have, like Dargan's or over by the old coffee cat and whatnot, that are not on State Street. So part of me, feels this is a little more equitable because they were paying the same rents as State Street was paying for their each chair, even though they were clearly not State Street frontage. Going to the comment phase of this, when this first came up in the 90s, and when we did the RDA redo of State Street and all those things, I was very much opposed to this for the same reason some of the speakers are about the public right-of-way, and are we turning this into a revenue generation thing in opposition to what public right-of-way should be all about. But now, having gone past all these years and seeing the ups and downs of State Street and seeing how very volatile business has been, particularly in the downtown, as the downtown organization, a few other organizations have come to us and asked this as one of those small action steps, one of those small gestures towards the business community, towards vitality, one that can be, in the future, if we so decide, if things turn around, we could revisit, because the ordinance will still be on the books. I see this as a very positive move by council and staff to try to at least throw a carrot out there to help businesses along. It's not the idea of the quote-unquote successful restaurant is going to be a bit of a rare breed, so whatever we can do to bring foot traffic downtown, whatever we can do to have outdoor visibility, whatever we can do to have people on the outside I think is going to be vital to our regeneration of vitality. So, so I will be, I'll be supporting this going forward. The consultant report that was referred to, the Cosmont report, is not going to get down into these far the weeds of this kind of financing. Those are broader concepts, so I don't think that's going to be an issue that arises in this. So I think that actually Cosmont Group, having spoken to their consultants at length, would be, they would think this is probably a good resolution and a good thing going forward to put forth and get away from the anti-business atmosphere that Santa Barbara's labeled with so much and moving towards recreating the kind of vitality we want to see downtown.
Thank you, Councilmember Rouse. I will add to that. I really enjoy outdoor dining. I think it makes a nice atmosphere. It's very important that these stay ADA compliant on the sidewalk and within the patio space. I am concerned about the smoking. If it becomes an issue, then I think we need to revisit that. But this is already what's in place for the existing outdoor dining areas now, and it doesn't seem to be a real problem at the moment. So I'm concerned also that it's consistent with the pedestrian master plan, so as long as it is consistent there. And we are still charging a fee to recover the costs, and that is a changeable fee. So if it wasn't enough for cost recovery, then that annual fee could go up, and that gives us an opportunity also to make sure we're having people in compliance and that we aren't having bad actors who are taking advantage. So I also want to prioritize that our infrastructure obviously stays in place and is the priority in the public right-of-way. So if we do bring benches back, which I hope we do, and as we're moving to bike share and different other shared space, that the infrastructure is priority, and then the permitting also. But we're still recovering the cost. It's still the rules that are in place right now that seem to be working and is consistent with the pedestrian master plan. So I'm also in favor of this change. Councilmember Gutierrez?
Yeah, one more question, sorry. When it comes to the smoking ordinance, is the individual fined by a law enforcement officer? Is it a police officer? Is it one of the State Street guardians?
Committee Member Gutierrez, I can just answer a very brief part of that, which is I know the first step in the smoking ordinance is a warning, and I'm not sure the status of enforcement after that warning. I'm not sure.
As with all of our ordinances, or virtually all of our ordinances, they are enforced by the police department on as they see them basis. So, it's not different than any of our other ordinances. We don't have a specific.
So if it becomes a reoccurring problem for a specific establishment, is the establishment held responsible for them not enforcing their patio, or does it just stay with the individuals who are smoking?
Committee Member Gutierrez, since the license holder is using the public right-of-way, I think in addition to that first warning step, I think we'd also be contacting them as to the status of their license. We always give a phone call, et cetera, of a warning and an observation. We would contact the business owner that we were seeing some repeat issues related to smoking complaints from the public, and we would likely tell the business owner to get in compliance with their license, which requires them to comply with all city ordinances, such as the smoking ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Other than that, I just want to say that I feel like we need to start doing things to make it easier for business owners in State Street and the city to feel like they can start providing a service that they feel the people would really enjoy, and this is one step to do that. So I really appreciate the work staff has done to work with the business establishment here.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move staff recommendation.
I'll second.
Thank you. And then a roll call vote.
Councilmember Rouse?
Aye.
Councilmember Gutierrez?
Yes.
Madam Chair Sneddon?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that,
Thank
we
you.
will adjourn today's Ordinance Committee meeting.